What's up, guys? By the title, you can tell we're talking NFL, specifically my bets for conference championship games. Recording this on Thursday, so just a couple days away till conference championship weekend. Just 3 NFL games left in the season. We got 2 really good ones this weekend, and it's nice only having 2 games to monitor and work on. Allows you to really focus in, do a deep dive into the different strengths and weaknesses of each matchup. Not a lot of player news or injury reports to keep up with like there is in the regular season. Another helpful factor is, we have reference points or sample size of these games we can kind of look back and take certain things from. This is going to be the third meeting between the 49ers and Rams, and the Bengals and Chiefs just played earlier this month. So that can help us give somewhat of an idea of what we can expect this weekend. But, like Rich and I was saying in last week's live stream, there's never going to be a perfect handicap with these types of games. You can make strong, convincing cases for either team in both these games. I have bets on both games that I like. I mean, of course, I wouldn't have bet them if I didn't like them, but I'm going to talk about my reasoning. I'll recap at the end, too, for anyone that just wants to skip and not hear the reasoning. But it's worth noting, just because these are conference championship games doesn't mean you have to bet more on them or that I like these bets more than I do any other one-unit bet that I've made this regular season. You're going to see a lot of touts and pick sellers promoting games of the year plays or 100-unit locks. It's all bullshit. Think about it, too. These pick sellers always have their max locks or, whale plays or whatever they call them on the bigger games, like Monday or Sunday Night Football. Imagine a pick seller on one of these games this weekend saying, I don't have a bet this weekend. I just didn't like a game enough. It never happened because they know it's easy to sell picks on these games with the added attention. But in reality, these big TV games, they're the ones that sportsbooks and odds makers focus on as well the most. You're not going to find games where there's a huge edge or, the point spread's way off. At least not with games like, the game spread or, the over-under. Maybe there's mispriced like player props, but, even those, they're not going to last long because other bettors will find them, bet it, and the books will adjust and move the line. And that's why I always say it's not you versus the bookie. It's you versus the bookie and then everyone else betting in that market. And right now, the most competitive market is NFL spreads and totals, over-unders. But as of right now, the lines for this weekend's games are pretty much set in place. I'm not expecting any major line movement from now till Sunday unless some, surprise injury news pops up. But let's hop right into the first game on Sunday, 3 p.m. Bengals, Chiefs, and KC is -7 with a 54.5. My power rating number for this game, I have KC 5.25 points better than Cincy on a neutral field. That's like my raw power rating. Then when we factor in home field advantage, which I have worth roughly 2 points, make KC favored by 7.25 points, which is basically in line with what the books have listed now. These teams did just play a few weeks ago, and what I noticed most about that game at first glance was how well both offenses moved the ball. They almost combined for 900 total yards. Chiefs scored 28 points in the first half. In the second half, they only had 3 possessions, but the Chiefs also had 14-point leads 3 separate times in this game, and the Bengals got back in it every time. The Chiefs really had no answer defensively, slowing down the Cincy offense, who's just a tough matchup for anyone because they have just 3 legit wide receivers. And now you got to look at the status of Chiefs safety Tyrann Mathieu. That's huge. But when I think about the total in this game, on Sunday, it's 54.5. It's the same exact total that the Buffalo-Kansas City game closed at, but Buffalo, based on several different metrics, had the number 1 rated defense. So now we have the same total, but we have a Cincy defense that's basically league average at best. Chiefs should have no issue moving the ball on this defense, even if Cincy kind of follows this league-wide defensive blueprint versus KC, which I've talked about a few times this season, this cover 2 shell defense that Mahomes, struggled against at times during the season, basically takes away their big play capability, which is, what the Chiefs have relied on a lot. But the Chiefs have now adapted against this cover 2. We've seen almost every opponent the past 2 months show this defensive look towards KC. Buffalo played cover 2 and took away anything deep from KC. 98% of Mahomes' attempts during that game were inside of 15 yards as far as air yards. It was the highest rate of any game in his career. I think he only threw 2 passes longer than 15 yards. Now, the problem here for Cincy is their biggest weakness on defense is underneath defending the short pass. They rank as one of the worst pass defenses versus tight ends and running backs receiving out of the backfield. Ton of games this season where tight ends and running backs had big games against them receiving. So I did bet the over I posted this in the Discord on Monday. It's gone up a little since then, but I still like it. But I am stuck right now on the side between KC -7 or Cincy +7. A team like Cincy has such a high ceiling, but they have a low floor too. If Burrow's clicking on all cylinders, they can beat anyone. But he's going to have to play a lot better than he has in his first 2 playoff starts. They won last week, but I think that had a lot more to do with the Titans' mistakes and just a really bad coaching performance by Vrabel. But yeah, this is a tough one. Burrow, on the road, hostile environment. You look at the Bengals, they were 2-14 2 years ago. I don't know if they're ready for this step up, and I keep thinking, Buffalo played a perfect game and they still lost. I was also thinking KC first half might be worth a look. I haven't bet that. Another thought I had was if you like KC in this game versus the Bengals, it might make more sense betting them to win the Super Bowl because, they'll be favorites in the Super Bowl regardless of who they play. They got to make it there first. But instead of laying -7 versus Cincy, bet them to win the Super Bowl. And if they do beat Cincy, you'll have KC in the Super Bowl to win at, plus odds, which would give you the option to hedge and take the other side plus points and, win and lock in money. It's just an idea if anyone really likes KC this week or, maybe look to bet an exact matchup. Bunch of different ways to play this one. But let's move on to the late Sunday game. I have bets on both the side and total in this one. Current line's 3.5 with a 45.5. It's kind of rare we see 2 teams from the same division meet up and play for the 3rd time in the conference championship game. My power ratings on this game make the Rams 1.5 better if they were to play on a neutral field. And I'm not really sure what we can give the Rams, if anything more than 1 point for home field advantage. Even though home field advantage is usually increased during the playoffs, this game is about as close to a home game for the Niners as it could be without it being actually a home game. Shortest travel time for them. It's a familiar location and stadium. San Fran actually has an extra day's advantage of rest, too. They played on Saturday. The Rams played on Sunday across country in Tampa Bay. So very little home field advantage here for the Rams. I have a bet on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Normally, this would be a spot where I'd be looking to hedge, but I'm not even hedging. I'm actually betting the Niners plus 3.5 because I think the Niners have such a good matchup advantage. We've heard all about how the Niners have won the last 6 straight games they've played against the Rams going back to 2019. Can't really put too much weight into that because it's not the same exact team each time. Stafford wasn't even a QB in all those games. So I'm not really looking at that as like a predictive factor for Sunday's game, but I do think there's a clear reason why, it's such a tough matchup for the Rams. When you look at, what both teams do well, what they want to do, and, where they struggle. Rams have a defense that's designed to stop teams like KC and Green Bay or Tampa Bay. San Fran's a completely different type of team. And actually, when you think about it, a lot of teams have, built their defenses around stopping high-powered passing offenses. And I think that's kind of why we've seen teams like Tennessee and San Fran, who are like run-first teams, have success versus these teams. If you watch the Rams on defense, they're like a motion defense. They disguise their coverages a lot by moving defenders around. Opposing QBs struggle with that. They can't get a pre-snap read to know if it's man coverage or zone. And that's what the Rams like to do. The problem with this type of defense is because they're moving around, they don't have many defenders stacked up in the box. In fact, the numbers show the Rams use the fewest guys in the box out of any team. So in other words, they crowd the line of scrimmage the least out of any team in the NFL. The Niners have the second highest run rate on early downs, second to only the Titans. So you'd think opposing defenses would, load the box on early downs like they do against Tennessee. Tennessee faces stacked box all the time. But what the Niners do themselves, they run a lot of pre-snap motion, moving defenders side to side. That type of motion offense makes defenses like less aggressive, moving them side to side instead of north and south. Can't really load the box like that. So I think they have success running the ball, but it's actually a better passing matchup for San Fran too. Jimmy G almost exclusively passes over the middle. If you look at his charts, he hardly ever passes, towards the sidelines. The Niners actually pass over the middle more than any other team. In the Rams, they don't defend the middle of the field passing. They rank near the bottom in all meaningful metrics when it comes to the pass defense over the middle. And on the other side of the ball, the Niners have a defensive style that matches up great against Stafford and the Rams. Stafford kills blitzing teams. San Fran, one of the lowest blitzing rates in the league. But the Niners are also top 3 in pressure rate since week 8. What makes them so good defensively is that they don't have to blitz to get pressure. They use like a deep rotation on the defensive line to get fresh bodies in there. They don't have the big names on the defensive line like the Rams do, but they're deep. None of their defensive linemen have anywhere close to the snap rate as the Rams defensive line. And snap rate is basically like out of all the plays, how many of them a player is on the field for. So like, for example, Aaron Donald, he has a 98% snap rate. He just doesn't come off the field. But I think the Rams have success throwing the ball against the secondary and can score. But I think the Niners can score as well. I bet the over. I think both teams will have success passing the ball. In the previous 2 games, the over-under for those games, the first one closed 51 and the second one 47. Now we have a total of 45.5, which is the lowest total of the year for the Rams. I think the total's low for a couple reasons. Historically, when teams meet up for the third time in the playoffs, it's an under trend. But it's not a very big sample size. It's rare when this happens. And there's bettors that weigh those type of trends heavily. Also, the Niners' lack of scoring last week, that's being priced into this total for sure. Niners offense only scored 6 points, but completely different environment this game. Last week was the first game Jimmy G has played in temperatures lower than 30 degrees. Not exactly ideal when you have a shoulder and thumb injury. So I can kind of excuse that performance there for him and think it actually provides a little value on the over. This isn't going to be Lambeau Field at night in freezing conditions. It's indoors, SoFi Stadium on a fast turf surface. So just to recap here, I think the Rams should be able to attack the 49ers secondary, and for San Fran, their offense and what they do is perfect to counter the Rams defense. So I'm going over KC Cincy. I'm taking San Fran plus the 3.5, even though I have a Super Bowl future bet on the Niners. So it's basically like I have them on the money line as well now. And that's going to be a big one for me, but I'm going over in that game as well. So 3 official bets locked in so far. If you're tailing my bets, hope I was able to provide some helpful info, even if you're not. But either way, good luck this weekend with all your bets. Until next time.